I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're gonna crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in a mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you.
Hell yeah.
You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen.
Hell yeah.
And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you gonna do?
Hello, citizens. Welcome to FCast Football Podcast. Once again, I am Mayuk, and with me, I have got Orko.
Hi, hi Mayuk. Hi,
So,
Footizens.
so we both are back with another episode which we wanted to do. And having said that, so today we would be talking. Actually, this is a topic which is very close to both of our hearts. So this is basically a episode on the underdogs of football, the minnows, who challenge the big names of the game and eventually turn the tables upside down. And as we all know, and and all with the start of the new season, we saw so many upsets going on every now and then. So I think that we felt this is the perfect time to tell about three of the greatest upsets in the history of football. So I will now pass it on to Orko to elaborate.
Right, exciting season from the start, and the EPL season specifically has given us some wonderful games, right, Mayuk? I
Yes,
know you have been on the other end of some results, but
absolutely.
you, the, but even the quality of football has been, I mean, tremendous to watch. I mean, for a spectator, even for a neutral fan, on matches like Aston Villa's, Newcastle's, Everton, and they're just having a fine time.
And a special
And
mention,
like
Leeds United.
definitely. And so,
Yeah,
with the season that has been going on, we came up through this story that broke on the internet that the last time Manchester United conceded six and Liverpool conceded seven in the same season, which happened a few weeks back. Everton was the champions, and Mayuk, you would like to add something?
yeah, absolutely. And we can really see the Everton team in such a great shape, which we have never seen before. And with the arrival of Don Ancelotti, and with the transfer of a quality player like James Rodriguez being added to the squad, I think uh, I think Everton is looking like a completely different unit, and they are looking like a just the way Orko likes saying, well-oiled machinery, where every functions of every individuals is very specified, and and
Right.
in a properly integrated system, and which even the likes of Liverpool cannot decode, which we can see. So but
Exactly. So we'll plan about that episode a year later, probably. But
absolutely.
today we'll talk about three stories: a Greek Odyssey, the fearless foxes, the story of Leicester City, and the Danish Dynamites, the story of Denmark in the 1992 European Championships.
Yeah, I think
So
as
we'll
because
start
Leicester,
off with
yeah, the Leicester was probably the most recent one, so I think most of the people can relate to that. So let's start with the Leicester one. Otto, you can start.
yeah. So the Leicester will just start. So it was the story of the fearless foxes, the Leicester City fairy tale. Leicester City were had just survived the relegation battle the previous season, and the next season they went on to become champions of England, the very coveted trophy of Premier League. So it started a year before in 2012-13, where they failed to qualify for the promotion uh, to Premier League from the League One, the second division of English football. And they lost in a very heartbreaking manner to Watford. I mean, many of us have seen the replays of Troy Deeney scoring a goal, breaking the Foxes' hearts to send Watford to the promotion to Premier League. And Leicester had to stay back in the League One and one more season, and they had to compete again and come back to the Premier League the next season. Nigel Pearson was the manager who also was very pivotal in the role to save Leicester City from the relegation the next season. That is the 2014-15 season. They had to win 5 out of 9 matches to stay alive in the Premier League for the upcoming season, and they managed to do that. The team survived, but the manager didn't. And next season, Claudio Ranieri was appointed as the new manager. Like Claudio Ranieri, the man who was very instrumental in uh, laying the foundations on which Mourinho uh, brought home the trophies for Chelsea, right, Mayu?
Absolutely. So it was the story ranges back to 2015-16 season in the Barclays Premier League. So Orko just gave a background on what the actual picture of Leicester was. Having said that, very little was expected of Leicester at the start of the season because they finished in merely a 14th spot in the previous season, and they had also almost a newly promoted team because they had come from the second division. So, and another aspect of the team was that they had their crowd favorite manager who was sacked, and Claudio Ranieri, who was not in the big league for quite some time, was roped in for the Leicester job. So obviously they were probably 5,000 is to 1 with the bookmakers at the start of the season, before the season kicked off. And also another funny fact about that,
Right.
another funny fact is once just at the start of the league, there was a newspaper report in England that there was a prediction which manager would be the first one to be sacked. And surprisingly, they did a survey in which most of the people thought that Claudio Ranieri, who was the newly appointed manager of Leicester, would be the first one to be sacked. So this was the background before the start of the league. Now, also could you please run us through how the league?
So, as Ranieri took over, he answered his critics by galvanizing a team of outcasts from the other Premier League teams who had deemed those players not fit enough for the club. And the team was built revolving around the sharpness and the finishing of Jamie Vardy and the artistic left foot of Mahrez. They were backed ably by Drinkwater and Kante in the midfield. Kante plays for Chelsea and he's quite a name in the world of football right now. And
Yeah,
they had the leadership of Wesley Morgan and Robert Huth, who were the centre back pair. And not to forget on the left flank, and also supporting Vardy and Ujoa. And the goalkeeper was Kasper Schmeichel, the son of legendary goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel, incidentally, who was a part of the Danish Dynamite team. So we'll get back to that. And as Leicester started, they strung on a string of performances, which were like they ended the game winning the game or drawing the game from losing positions multiple number of times. Probably 4 to 5 times they won from 2-0 down or 3-0 down at halftime. And this was a beautiful team. They played some excellent football with the old school 4-4-2 formation, which at that time was little used. I mean, it was an outdated formation, right, Mayu?
absolutely. It was. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a totally outdated formation because for long we had seen managers who were most of the managers were losing faith on the 4-4-2 combination. Then suddenly Claudio Ranieri came and he just tried that. He just pulled out the trick out of his bag. It seems the old trick of attacking
Yeah,
football.
fast counter attacks. I mean, those sounds of the voices of the commentators. I mean,
Yeah,
like a through ball to Vardy and he scores, and that continued 11 matches on a streak. I mean, he's
abs-
kept on scoring so many goals. Like he equaled the record of
Ruud
Ruud
van
van
Nistelrooy.
Nistelrooy of
Yes.
score. Right, and it was
So
ironical. It was against Manchester also.
yeah, absolutely. And so, but at the end result was we saw the Foxes It was the fox's turn to hunt in packs and become the king of the jungle. And and many football pundits still believe that this is the greatest sporting story ever in the history of football. So having said that, I think I also want to discuss about the night they actually won the league. I think you must be
Right.
remembering that, Orko.
Eh, Yeah, it was a house party at Jamie Vardy's house, and they were
Yes.
watching the game, Chelsea's game against Tottenham
Yeah,
at the bridge.
and
And
Tottenham
the
Tottenham
moment
was at
Eden
the second
Hazard,
position. Tottenham was at the second position
right,
then, and they just
yeah,
needed Tottenham to lose a point just to ensure they wins the league.
right. And the winning goal was scored by Hazard, Eden Hazard, the
Yes.
top. I mean, off an assist from Diego Costa. That was a beautiful night of football. I mean,
Yeah,
and so the Foxes story was actually one of the best stories that has been ever told in the history of football. Being in a league is always difficult to win. I mean, 4 to 5 matches in a cup, international cup, that is okay. One might have luck over a few months, 1 month or 1.5 months of football, but winning a league a period of 10 months, it's definitely a commendable, I
absolutely,
mean,
and it takes
like,
38 matches for the league to be complete. So you have 38 matches to decide your fate, and in this 38 matches, you have to do a lot of things. You have to counter severe opponents twice. You have to play a lot of other tournaments as well. Then you have to manage the injury issues and all other issues. There are so much concurrent issues, and managing all this, Leicester had won the league probably with 2 or 3 matches to spare, if I'm not wrong. And
yeah, exactly.
for a team which was just qualified to the big league for probably the previous year, and before that they had a relegation scare in the second division, and that team turning the tides and eventually turning out champions is probably one of the biggest statements one can make as a football club, and that is only possible if you have a highly efficient team which which has a common dream, leaving aside all the personal all other things in the world. So I think this happens to rightly by many football pundits. This is one of the greatest football stories ever.
All right. So we'll move on to our next story, the Greek
Yeah,
Odyssey, right?
absolutely. So that is quite another story. That is it. and
So
and
it
I,
was
I I do have a lovely story to tell about that, but we would come just we will come to that at the last. But before that, let's discuss some of the aspects of the tournament. So why don't
right.
you
It
start?
was the summer of 2004
Yeah,
that young Cristiano Ronaldo had come out of the blocks, and it was the tournament was in his backyard in Portugal itself, and he was robbed of an opportunity of an early international success by
yeah,
a team of Greek gods with really unpronounceable names.
absolutely.
So Greek hadn't had much success before in international tournaments, but this time it was something different. They were destined for, I mean, glory. I mean, from the initial match, they were managed by Otto Regel, the German disciplinarian, and they like beat Portugal in the opening match, which had the likes of Figo, Cristiano Ronaldo, Deco, and then they marched on to victory when there were giants like France with Zidane, England with David Beckham, Gerrard, and Rooney, the Netherlands, and also Germany and Spain. In fact, they were in the group of death with
Yes.
Spain, Portugal, and Russia, which they somehow managed to qualify and then went on to become the champions like Mayuk.
Absolutely. So in the first match, also they started with an upset because nobody thought Figo's and Ronaldo's Portugal would eventually lose to a side called Greece. But Greece somehow managed to defeat Portugal in the first match. But still, that was still called an upset just another match which the but still Greece was still not taken seriously. Suppose that they had a draw against a star-studded Spanish side, because we know the Spain team mostly comes from a is mostly a combined team of Real Madrid and Barcelona, and it has been over the years. So it's always Spain is always started with stars. So and to draw and to manage to force a draw against the Spanish side is also not a small thing to achieve. And then eventually they qualified to the knockouts, where they were facing Zidane's France. And I think Zidane also had a point to prove, because France were out of 2002 World Cup, but they could hardly manage anything, and France had to lose to Greece, and after which Zidane also had announced retirement, which he broke later on. So this happened, and I also a special mention for the semi-finals against the Czech Republic. I think what a match it was, and Czech Republic was by far the most talked about team in that tournament, with such uh, agile players like Rosinski, Barros, and most importantly Paulo Nedved. Paulo Nedved, for us who follows club football, knows who Paulo Nedved is, but for people
It's
who only
Pavel
follow
Nedved,
Pavel Nedved, I'm sorry, but
right?
yeah, Pavel Nedved, and
The
so
Juventus legend. I mean,
the Juventus legend,
and
and what a
also
player
not
he
to
was.
exactly, but also not to forget that they had one of the tallest strikers of all time. I mean, Jan
Yeah,
Koller. Remember the
Jan
6 feet
Koller.
giant,
Yeah, yeah, and
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 also
they were
Peter Cech in goal.
and the specialty of Czech Republic team were they were basically a tall team. They had mostly players who were above 6 feet height, so that height difference was very evident in all the matches they played in Europe, and this was one of the talked
But it
about
was
points.
also the Greek. But Greek were also a team of tall men, and that was one of the most efficient scoring machinery. They would score from
Yes,
set pieces. Like
yeah,
most of the goals were from corners or free kicks, which were looped into the box and someone headed home.
yeah,
Caristias is one of the players I remember. Still, his name, I mean, resonates in my ears. Like
yeah.
every time there is an opportunity, and the commentator shouting the name of Caristias and goal. And you have a brilliant story to say.
Yeah, but
Share with us.
before that, let me also be able to mention that in the final when they defeated Portugal, I think that teary-eyed face of Cristiano Ronaldo was very heartbreaking, because I was a Manchester United. I'm still a United fan. So, but watching
Yeah.
Ronaldo in that state of mind was really very heartbreaking. But having said that, coming on to the story, so this is a very interesting one. So there was a player called Takis Fisas, and Takis Fisas was a member of the Greece side that traveled to play the Euros, and he also had his marriage lined up on July 9, 2004, and he traveled to that was held in Portugal, right? Hello.
Yeah, it was Portugal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was Portugal.
so it was in Portugal. So he traveled to Portugal in probably in mid-June, and he had promised his partner Christina that he would be back probably in a week or two, and then they would do all the arrangements together. And he also wanted to watch the match with Christina. Uh,
The
watch
final match, they had
the
no hope.
the
They,
semis and the
they really
finals.
had no
Yeah,
hope.
yeah, they
Yeah,
never thought, and none of let's forget the world, none of the players in the Greece team thought, because all of them were invited to the wedding, so and none of them thought they would
exactly.
actually make it. So July 4, 2004, 5 days to his wedding, he didn't come back, breaking the promise, because because he was playing the Euro final for Greece, and that was one of the hilarious moments. And they won the final that day, and then they came back to Greece, and he probably came to his wedding 2 days prior, and the entire team came, and the trophy was kept in that wedding banquet hall. And surprise, one funny thing is, people say that the guests who came, took more photos with the trophy than with the bride and the groom. So I think fans are really crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And who wouldn't love that on their wedding table? Like,
Yeah,
wow.
and
So the
and
next story,
yes, yes, please
the
move on.
next story is about the Danish Dynamite, the team which even didn't qualify for the tournament, came on to win the European Championship,
Yeah,
and with a
yeah,
very well organized squad, which
and
picked up
and
from the
and also in a situation, just to cut you, also in a situation where the entire Europe continent was in a turmoil because the disintegration of USSR had just happened, and then
right.
we saw, and it was a biggest turmoil after the Second World War, and
Yeah,
with
it
the
was a peak of Cold War, if I'm not mistaken. The breaking
absolutely.
down of yeah.
Germany had reunified, and most importantly, there was a state of civil war in Yugoslavia, which barred them from playing the 1992 European Championship because they had
Right,
qualified ahead of Denmark. But
right.
being barred from the tournament, that gave Denmark auto qualification to the tournament.
Yeah, they were second in line. I mean, they were
Yeah,
uh, the best third place team from a group, I guess.
absolutely. So, and obviously, very little was expected of them because they had a very poor start with a 0-0 draw against England, and then they were defeated by Sweden, and they had a must-win match against France. So that was a must-win match for them, and surprisingly, they were pitted against all the hosts of the tournament because there were three hosts: Sweden, France, and England. All three of them were hosts, and Denmark was pitted against them. And in the must-win match against France, somehow Sweden managed to win and qualify to the next round, and where they played against Netherlands. I think that is also one of the most talked about matches because we all know the quality or the strength the Dutch side had those days,
Right, it
and
was Ruud
yeah,
Gullit and Rijkaard, Van Basten. Were like
absolutely. And that match is also a very a notable match because this Denmark side, the Danish side, managed to hold the Dutch side 2-2, and which was followed, and the tiebreakers followed, and one Marco Van Basten, who is an absolute legend of the game, had actually missed a penalty in the tiebreakers, which contributed to the Danish win in the semi-finals. And and after that, the goalkeeper of Netherlands, a goalkeeper of Denmark, became an overnight star. And after that, after a few years, he was bought by Manchester United. We all know that. And now coming on to the final, the big one. The final was against Germany, and Germany was the defending champion in 1990 World Cup. They just one-sidedly had won the World Cup, and we all know how star-studded were they, with the likes of Lothar Matthäus and Jürgen Klinsmann and Rudi Voller and so many big names.
right.
But they also managed to pick the mighty Germans, and which was termed by which was called as absolute shocker by many European newspapers the very next day. And that was something completely out of the park. The Danish team, which didn't even qualify for the 92 Euros, managed to leave all the teams behind and win the tournament. And after that inspired the cash-rich European clubs to just uh, run after the Danish players. So isn't it that I
Splash
think
the cash.
absolutely, and so Denmark completely broke all the shackles, isn't it?
Right, it was a flying team. I mean, they were on vacation. Most of them were called back from vacation when Yugoslavia was banned, and to be out of touch with football, being on vacation. I mean, there is always a element of match fitness that always comes into big tournaments. So having been out of touch, then coming back into the tournament and then going on to beat some of the legendary teams of the era to win the tournament as underdogs was a brilliant achievement overall. So to round off, we had 3 sensational stories. We will like to be back with more. We appreciate your support.
Make sure you all stay safe and keep listening to Fcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.